Um, Good morning, or good afternoon, shall I say, St. Julian Scholars, Master in Orders, and other hospitality colleagues to join us today. This is our first St. Julian Scholars webinar, and we have the huge pleasure of having Robbie Bargh from the Gorgeous Group to join us today. I mean, we've been through quite a year and a bit now. At first, we were told that things would be getting back to normal last summer. Then in September, then we got told Christmas, it's going to be all right. And we are at a date which is the 12th of April, which we're going to have retail, outdoor hospitality opening, and also hairdressers. And it's for sure that a number of people on this call need a hairdresser, that's for sure. And you know, opening hospitality on the 12th is vital for us to get going and get started. On my way walking into work this morning, I went past the Nubu Portman Square, putting up a marquee ready for an outdoor experience. The Churchill Hotel opening up a new terrace, another terrace. Home House, those building works and bits and pieces happening in their garden. And also I may as well mention the Langham and our Wigmore Garden, which is launching also on the 12th, which I hope they're going to get there because there's a lot of work still to do, but we will do and look forward to that. So really, really important day, the 12th. And it is vital for us, you know, to think differently, do things differently, and really work hard on keeping us relevant. We can't do what we used to do, so it's vital that we keep on listening to industry guides and leaders, and it's with a really great pleasure to have Robbie from the Gorgeous Group, who's going to give us an insight, a journey on what will be happening, hopefully, or what he sees. But also those who haven't had a call with Robbie before, you are in for one hell of a ride. So strap in and get ready, because it's going to be like a power ball in a small room, and it's just going to all kick off. So and with no further ado, over to Robbie.
Thank you so much, Nick. I'm going to share my screen. There we go. Can everyone see that? I think they can. Great. Okay. So I'm just going to do that. So thanks, Nick, for that great introduction. And yeah, I'm going to go through some slides, and if we can do some Q&A later, that would be great. It is a very challenging time. I've done 3 tastings this week, and there's lots of real excitement and adrenaline, but lots of things, lots of questions to be asked, and and lots of there is a lot going on, and it's going to be a big next month for our industry. So we're going to talk about a bit of what's actually happening at the moment, and what we've learned and what we can take away from a food and drink perspective. I'm going to talk about some great examples. But it is a reset, and when we talk about reset, this is a new world we're going into. It's a new opportunity. It's a new future. It's a new way of eating and drinking. It's a rethink. It's a repurposing, repositioning, all sorts of great opportunities to do some new things. And I think that's really important to think about. 2020 was like no other year. Brexit, COVID, 3 lockdowns, tears, hospitality, working from home, Black Lives Matter, economy, health, social uncertainty, and insecurity. What I'm going to do is take us through some examples of what has been great and some takeouts. And I've structured it into an A to Z, which usually helps me then keep it to a confined sort of number of slides. But I think the key thing to remember is, this isn't about food and beverage outlets. I hate that word. We are in the business of creating true emotion per square foot. And what I mean by that is we're not about creating just about revenue per square foot, how much revenue you can get from something, but how much emotion can you create? What makes a guest talk about what you're doing in a very special way, and they talk to their friends and it becomes social currency. It's that emotion per square foot. If we can create that and make that amazing, then we're onto a bit of a winner. And so I want to just go through and talk about some great examples and learnings and think about the future. So let's get to the first slide. So A is for agility. I think one of the great things we've learned over the last year is to be agile. And restaurants have learned to do delivery, hotels have learned how to do click and collect, bars have learned to do off-trade sales, and restaurants have learned how to become retail. Some great examples here. This is my favorite. I love this afternoon tea by Sketch, and Quant, that great cool bar, just off of Heddon Street, doing a really fabulous example of bottled cocktails, which you can order to be delivered. And then one of my favorites has been Pizza Pilgrims. You can't go to the restaurant, so order the kit and you make your own pizza. So we've learned how to become agile, and going forward, we're going to really have to think about how our spaces become more agile. And when we're designing concepts and spaces, we have to think about that. I love what the Berkeley has done, in the sense that it's really taken everything. It's done lots of initiatives for the NHS, breakfast in bed, beach huts, the Berkeley Blue Bar bikes. What I love about what the Berkeley have done though is the detail, is the attention to detail, the brand message, and also how they've kept everything very relevant, and and done something which is very on brand, tone of voice, and and that everything from the design and the messaging, the social media really has been brilliant. And I think they've learned a great deal about going forward, about how they can position themselves, and I think as a brand they've come out really well. So I think hats off to them. This is an obvious one, and obviously something which is important to, in our mind, but I've been working on a few projects on a few hotels which are reopening. And one thing I've realized is that during lockdown, we've become, we have learned, we've educated ourselves. I mean, Stanley Tucci, if you go on YouTube and just, listen to him, watch him making his Negronis, is genius. So I think during lockdown, we've become, really accustomed to, what great wine is, what great beer is, how to make our own cocktails. Cocktail programs in hotels are still not great. They need to be better. Everyone focuses about the food, everyone the chef, and but we need great cocktail programs. We can create our own amazing bars. This is the drinks list on the right, which is a really initiative way, a brilliant way of showcasing ingredients and drinks, is our Artesian, at the Langham. And then someone like Ryan working at Sea Containers, winning Bar of the Year. This one of these big top accolades. Hotels need to get serious when it comes to drinks. Strategy, concept, program, training. They really need to understand the opportunity here. I mean, I've been presenting a project this morning to a client, and breakfast bellinis we were talking about. There is an opportunity to create a great experience for guests, but it has to be considered. We need to have someone who's taking responsibility of a drinks training program, a drinks program, a cocktail program. It's really important, and it's not just about boozy cocktails. The whole opportunity about no alcohol or low alcohol or we really need to look at this and get serious, because we don't. I love one of the things DISHOOM has done well is it's created its own store, its own virtual amazing store that you can't have the experience in the restaurant. So what they've done is gone beyond the kits, and they've created this virtual retail store. So you can actually buy the breakfast kits, the cookbooks, you can even buy the soundtrack, you can even buy the LP, the vinyl, to play and bring to life that experience. And then they've got their own range of cocktails, which has been brilliant, which again gives you that whole sort of emotional connection with the brand. That is great. D also for diversification. this is amazing how Claridge's took on Davies and Brooke and said, right, okay, let's do something really special, really magical, and let's make it, on brand, but very unexpected. I mean, I've been to Davies and Brooke a couple of times and I really loved it. It's just got its own Michelin star, which is fantastic. But look at the way they've done this fried chicken in a box. This whole new experience about fried chicken. Genius. Again, look at the detail. Look at the branding. This is clever. This is beautiful, and this is very special, and it's very Claridge's. Look at the way they package that up in that little in that cool box with the again with that little detail with the rose. That is perfect. So there's this whole opportunity. What can you possibly do to create that in-hotel experience, which can go beyond the experience you have within the physical space? So diversification, we've learned how to think outside the box, and I think that's really important. We are not going to forget about the world we live in from an environmental point of view. Something we have done over the last year is really enjoy the outdoors, because we spent so much time being cooped up, and then when we do go out, we really appreciate it. Guests are becoming so much more environmentally aware. This is really, really key. And one thing I did when I was during lockdown was, I got myself pretty keyed up with the Sustainable Restaurant Association, which is a fantastic association. If you're not involved in this, you should be, because it's magical. It's brilliant. But looking at the tips they put out, and thinking about sustainable and ethical purchasing, and what to do with coffee. Coffee it's amazing. We really need to think about how we're going to create a more sustainable approach to what we do. Look at the pig. It's genius. It really is. It's a new way of purchasing and produce, and walled gardens, and really working locally with suppliers and producers. And I think that's really important. I put a silo on here because this guy is a genius, and I think the guys at Silo are in the way they approach purchasing and zero waste, the first zero wasted restaurant in the UK. I mean, look at the way they bring their produce in. Even the fact that you bring your produce in in a crate rather than a box, or rather than packaging, just things like that. But I think we really need to think about, as we're going into 21 and this next reset environment, we can't forget it. E-commerce to experience. This is one of our clients. So the Hut Group, incredible, successful business. They raised just under 2 billion on the stock market debut in September last year. And they literally, they are famous for e-commerce. They've done the most incredible e-commerce platform. And we started working with them because they bought some physical spaces, some assets, some hotels, and a country club. And we're working with them to create, really, tangible emotional experiences. So we're taking what they've done on e-commerce, and we're actually transforming that and giving them a physical platform to showcase what they do, and at the same time showcase their products. But it's really interesting how hotels are still very, very sexy. This whole world of hospitality to a business like the Hut Group is just phenomenal. This is a big bugbear of mine, is that we are eating less meat, and and we're eating better, but I don't want to see vegan menus or vegetarian menus. I want to see great balanced menus, fabulous, beautiful menus, which really talk about this is great and this is delicious and this looks fantastic, and it just happens to be vegan or plant-based. I think it's this is part of life. This is not a trend anymore. This is the way we live. Goodwill. I think just looking at the list of amazing, places out there who have done amazing job at Goodwill, and I think this is really wonderful, and it's great to see. And you've got the big boys there and the small guys there and individuals, and it's brilliant. But I would love to think that we're going to take this with us into our next reset. Is a lot of this goodwill, giving back, and the goodwill which lots of hotels and restaurants have shown over the last just over a year has been amazing. And I'd like to think that that's going to help go forward, and we're going to find, and companies will think about their bigger purpose. You know, you can't just have a promise to your shareholders. You've got to have a purpose. And I think this is really important. So I'd like to think that we are going to see a lot of this goodwill moving forward. H for hybrid hospitality. Now, this is big time. Working from home, isn't it? You know, it's this working spaces, the eating spaces, retail spaces, which are in retail space, eating spaces, hotel spaces, which do more than, you know, places to stay. This is really, really important. Look at the look at the you know, members clubs. Look at the work. You know, look at WeWork. You know, we have to think about our properties as doing more than just, you know, giving beds to people or giving places to eat and drink. So again, we are thinking about the emotion per square foot. Let's not forget that. I love, this is the retail store, the bottom right image is the retail store, you know, at Soho House Berlin, how they turn their lobby into a beautiful concept store effectively. And then I love, you know, Hoxton in Chicago is that you know, that space has become a workspace. So we've got to think about our properties and, you know, think about what else they can do. You know, so what, you know, they have to blend into each other, these purposes. And we've got to think about the needs of the people using these spaces, because it's really, really important. And at the same time, we have to deliver this emotion per square foot. And you know what, and that is all about those different things which happen and which make people feel amazing inside these spaces, but they have to feel good. So that could be the temperature, that could be the music, could be the lighting, you know, it could be the smells, it could be everything, but it's all about how can we help create these spaces which create these amazing, you know, where we want to work and live and play and enjoy ourselves and have events. And, you know, we've got to think about our spaces in that way. We've got some incredible new properties opening. I think for me, one of the biggest frustrations of the last year has been not being able to travel as I've always done. And, you know, I'm usually on a plane every week, and to not travel for a whole year has been, you know, it's been quite challenging for lots of reasons. But for me, it's the inspiration. You know, I think, you know, there's a huge world out there, and there's lots of things happening. And I think going to places to see what's actually happening. I'm so pleased we've got these fantastic openings, you know, ahead of us. You know, this is the top left image is the Grand we've been working on in Birmingham, which is an amazing project. And the people are fabulous, and Birmingham so deserves this hotel to reopen. It's a grand dam. And then you've got the Pig at South Downs top right, and, you know, and then you've got the Ardfin in Scotland just below. And then we've got the Nomad. You know, these are incredible spaces, and it's inspirational to have, you know, have these properties and have these projects opening up now. So I think, you know, let's not forget how important this is, but we need to get out there and we need to see what's going on, and we need to understand what's going to make these places very, very special. And it's very inspiring. And we need to go, you know, we just need to see what's out there and explore and discover. And you can do that online, but actually going to these spaces is really important, getting out there and being inspired. I is also for innovators. You know, everyone talks about Soho House as being this great members club company, and it is. But look what they do with their hotels. You know, look what they do with their properties where, you know, everyone can go and stay in them. They really get it right. And it's not, you know, they deliver on the emotion per square foot, absolutely. But they really think about the user, they think about the guest, they think about the design, they think about the, you know, the styling, they think about the music, the offer, the products. You know, I mean, it's genius. Just look at the way they talk to their audience. Look at their social media channels. Go into their websites. Look about their activation calendars. You know, Kettner's, Soho Farmhouse, the Ned, Dean Street Townhouse, Molly's Diner, you know, these are great spaces, beautiful spaces, and they're true innovators. They might be opening clubs up around the world, but look at their hotels. They really understand that, you know, their audience, they really get it. And from an emotion per square foot, they deliver massively. Now, I'm sure they're going through a massive reset at the moment, but their hotel properties will still have this desire for people to go and enjoy themselves and have a fantastic time. So as hoteliers, let's not forget that actually look what's around, look what's happening, and go outside. And I think, you know, there's so much out there you can take and think and learn from. And I think that's important, to be inspired and look at these innovators. This is so important. you know, one thing I've learned, I'm sure most of you have, is this thing about joy, about happiness. This idea about, look at Vogue last month dedicated a whole front cover to finding your joy. You know, this whole thing about happiness, about, you know, we have to be, you know, we are in the business of creating great happiness. That's what we do. Telling stories, making people smile, and that let's not lose focus about what that is. And for that to happen, really, we've got to really create happy places for people to work. And you know, I put the Lancaster on there. I think what Sally and the team have done there is incredible. But this whole way about rethinking about what we're doing, what's our purpose, and to have we have a responsibility as leaders and potential and future leaders to really create happy places people want to work. How can we create great guest experiences if we're not going to look after our teams? And then I think you should all click onto the happiness index, which is a really great virtual online sort of, you know, free, you know, to a certain degree, you know, resource to understand how you can bring this back to your teams. But it's a really key thing. And so delivering joy is going to be key in this next reset world. Kits, I think, you know, I've talked about this on social media a lot, but, you know, kits have become huge. But you've got to have a point of difference. You've got to have an experience which is beyond food, and the way you brand, the way you package, the way you talk about what you're doing. The way you put instructions together, the way you promote it, the way you package it. You know, all these things. You know, I can't believe how much Hawksmoor have just done phenomenally well in, you know, selling kits from 95 to 180 pounds, you know, 2,500, 3,000 kits a week. So much so that they've actually hired someone, you know, amazing in the industry, Joe Fleet, who, you know, from Flatiron, to come in and run that business. So actually build a whole revenue platform based on delivery and kits is phenomenal. So I think if Hawksmoor are doing this, there is, you know, there's an opportunity going forward to see, okay, what does that business model look like? L is for luxury, as we all know. What I think is amazing about luxury, when we start talking about this next reset, are properties such as, this is Lainston House, which is one of the exclusive properties which we're working on. And, you know, post-pandemic, luxury travel will focus on more personalized and private experiences. We know that. But also, properties need to rethink about, you know, the experiences guests are going to be having in their space needs to go beyond that one restaurant or beyond that one bar. You know, in Lainston, what's been brilliant is Danny Pecorelli came to us, said, Robbie, we've got this incredible cookery school, and we've got, you know, the Avenue, which is doing really, really well and does this whole wonderful fine dining experience. But when our guests come, we want them to have another experience. And so we actually created a restaurant out of the seasons. So they've got the cookery school, which works in the daytime, and we've created a beautiful, great, a very soulful, you know, food and drink experience, which is all based around the wood fire and, you know, the garden, and it's very al fresco as well. And we've created this whole experience in the cookery school. So suddenly this space has another purpose. So it's hybrid. So it's a cookery school in the daytime, and then in the evening it's a restaurant. But what's been great is the fact that, you know, Danny and the team at Lainston have really thought about the guest experience. They can't, you know, so when guests check in or when they're ringing up and they're booking a room, they are offered multiple experiences, not just going to the Avenue to have a great fine dining experience. And also, really importantly, people in Winchester or around the surrounding villages really can come to the Well House and have something really quite authentic and very genuine and great value and a different experience. So you're getting people in this property who might not have come before. So it's very relevant. And I think that's really, really key. Mindfulness, that's been something on our mind hugely. And I think when we start looking at drinks, we need to start thinking about that as well. You know, I talked about no alcoholic and low alcoholic cocktails. You know, I did no alcohol in January, which nearly killed me. But something I'm really enjoying is playing and really thinking about the sort of mindfulness around drinks. And we're doing several projects at the moment where there's a whole strategy around, you know, mindful drinking. So there's lots of great products out there, and there's lots of opportunities. And I think hotels really need to think about what is their mindful drinking strategy. N is for native. Now, native are, I'd like to say that I helped find them almost, but they were a great pop-up. This, you know, this is Imogen and Ivan, great couple who do fantastic, ethical, sustainable cooking, amazing. And they did a pop-up, you know, in Southwark, and it was fantastic, and I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I loved the passion behind these guys. And then we had Brown's, which is a very cool, very chic, luxurious sort of brand on South Molton Street, and they came to us and said, Robbie, we need, you know, we're moving to a great flagship, and we want to find a great eating and drinking experience, which we can put, which is very in keeping with our brand values, and something which is very relevant for our audience in Mayfair. So we could have gone to the usual suspects, but I decided to, you know, to take a bit of a punt and do a bit of a, you know, a catwalk show with some great talented people, great chefs and great restaurateurs. But in the end, we found that native were a great fit, and they're doing this fantastic native at home at the moment experience. But when you go to Brown's and do a bit of shopping, and you know, you can go into the courtyard and have really fantastic ethical eating and drinking, which just happens to be in one of the most luxurious, you know, retail flagship stores in Mayfair. But it was it's really wonderful how it's a bit of a juxtaposition, but you know, it's finding a match for an ethical brand with ethical eating, which I thought was wonderful. So I'm really looking forward to, you know, they'll be opening next week as well. O is for outside. We cannot forget that. It's going to be massive as of next week. I can't wait. I've got my places booked. You know, but it's hard. You know, this is going to be, this is what Nick is going to go downstairs and see later on. This is the Wigmore Garden, and the Wigmore, you know, was a project that we helped bring to life, and it's a beautiful, amazing sort of posh pub, like a modern tavern, which just happens to be on the back of Langham. But how to take that experience and put it into a garden, it's a whole different world. This is not just about creating something which is an outdoor area. You've got to really think about, you know, all those emotional elements. So the lighting, the seating, the comfort, the heating, you know, how does the operation work? You know, what does the guest see? What do they pick up? What do they touch? You know, you have to really think, this is a million miles away from just having an indoor experience. So how do you do outside? What we found through lockdown is councils have become, you know, very flexible and a lot more amenable to doing outdoor experiences. But we really need to think about how we deliver emotion per square foot. You know, how do we tell a story and do it well? You know, I remember listening to Robin Hudson talking about the pig experience and how it's all about the million simple details. This is all about the million simple details, and you can't forget it. You know, you can't mess it up. There's a great opportunity here the next few weeks and the next months to come. But outdoor, we need to really embrace it and really show councils and, you know, that we can do this really, really fantastically. So I can't wait to experience some of the great outdoor places I'm going to see in the next few weeks. P, another promotion for Penny for exclusive. You know, Penny Hill Park. You know, I love Penny Hill. It's amazing. It's fantastic. And again, they came to us and said, what can we possibly do? If people love coming here, and we get this great, you know, association with the English rugby team. We've got this beautiful, you know, really beautiful estate, a great spa, and you know, they've got this fantastic Michelin star restaurant, and they wanted to look at and I hate the words all day dining because it's just so dull and boring, but they wanted to create something which is another experience, a sister experience, which was set really, really well next to their fine dining experience. And I think that was really important. It's like, let's look at Latimer, which does one thing, which is their great Michelin star tick box. Let's think about something else. So we came up with this great sort of Surrey on a plate, hyper local, you know, British restaurant and bar, called the Hillfield, which is a great name associated to this area and this land. So you know, this is going to be opening in the next couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, and you know, it's special. It's literally Surrey on a plate. So we're really focusing on the county, and then, you know, create something quite quite fabulous, and also giving it a nice story and a nice identity, which is going to sit alongside really well to Latimer. And then also we've created this great outdoor space called the Lily Pond, which was there already, and we're just making it better, making it really zhuzhy, and it will feel very glamorous. So guests come and stay at Penny Hill, and they can have 2 or 3 different experiences while they stay. And again, at the same time, you can bring in a great local business, a local audience as well. Something I found really important during lockdown is how to use our time. I put P is for podcasts. Mark Cribb is a great guy, and any of you should just log on to his podcasts. And he's got a real great sort of human soul, and he's in the industry. He's got his own restaurants and a little hotel, but he interviews. He really gets into under the skin of some really great operators and people in the industry, and people, humans in hospitality. And this is just one example. But you should log on. If you get a chance to, you should log on to download his podcast, because he does some incredible interviews. I listened to one this morning he did, of James Golding from back last year, and it was fabulous, really, really good. But then also looking at, restaurateurs and operators from different parts of the country. Sarah Hewitt is a great operator from Scotland. He's got a great fish and chip shop, and it was a brilliant interview. And then, Michelle Rood Jr., really great people, really great. And you ought to listen to, get something from that. Q, Collier Chop House. I love what these guys, one of the oldest restaurants in the country, and they've really thought about what they do. They've expanded to create a provision store and create a wine shop and their own butchery, but also then they've created their own real specific niche products for delivery. And in this is Italian roast chicken, Italian style roast chicken. It's called Arrosto, which produces and distributes roast chicken only Thursday to Sunday within London. But I think that's amazing. There's great love for these stories, and that you find something really specific to your restaurant and then specialize in something. I love it. It's called Singular Sensation, and I think this is brilliant. So if you get a chance, if you live within London, check out Arrosto, because it's really special, and they only do roast chicken, which I think is great. This reset has been brilliant, I mean, for lots of reasons. But one thing I think is amazing is how the hospitality has suddenly become a much bigger, powerful voice in the UK, and this whole recent debate about Minister for Hospitality, getting people engaged and talking. There's still a lot to do, but there are people looking at hospitality now and realizing that this is not just something you do in between jobs. This is a serious industry which generates lots of revenue, brings revenue into the country, and there's lots of jobs supported because of hospitality. But also it's something which is very it has a lot of meaning and a lot of purpose. Change is happening, but hospitality hopefully is everyone's agenda, and we will see people will take us a lot seriously. S for social media, I just love I live on social media as we all do, I'm sure, but I love the way especially during lockdown, I've seen 2 brands work really, really well. And Claridge is, I just think they're just all over it. They get it. They really understand their audience. They understand, they make it very relevant to not just luxury, but London and their take on London. And they don't take themselves too seriously. It's original. And then Citizen M, I really, they are a global brand, but they're a lifestyle brand, and they really think about their social media content from a location point of view. And they're fun and they're quirky and they've got personality. And I just think it's important that your brand has to tell a story. And throughout all this lockdown, these brands like these 2 have been able to still continuously engage with their audiences. That we might be close, but they're not quiet. And I think that's really important. And things talking about, things like nostalgia, social cause, product, team, authenticity, brand stories, getting that out there and having a dialogue. And that's really, really key and really, really important. T is technology. We can't forget how important this has been over the last year. I know myself, I've worked on several projects where technology I would never have thought about as much as I have had to do. And there's new opportunities. We need to start thinking about, and that's comes down to ordering, pre-ordering, click and collect. This morning I was presenting a project we're doing in Glasgow, and click and collect will be a big feature. So, how does that work? It's difficult, it's challenging, there's lots of things to learn, but do you know what? We're going to learn very quickly, because we've learned very quickly, in the last year. So lots of things to embrace. But when you're building, your restaurant concepts, your hotel concepts, F&B, let's not think about technology as something which you will add on later on. Bring it into your plan now and start thinking about how, because our lives have changed massively, and they're not going to go back when it comes to technology. We've embraced this in a big way. U is for Gary Usher. Now, Gary is an incredible, fabulous chef who's a bit rock and roll, and he's based in Cheshire, in Manchester. He's got some incredible businesses, and his ethos, his cooking, his culture are just amazing. But one thing I've been watching whilst, over the last year, is how he's really embraced, delivering, and also catering. And, so much so, he's done such a brilliant job that he's realized, again, there's another financial, model here, another platform for his products and his experience. And he's created these elite bistros at home. And he said, he's going to make this a permanent platform, and something which, taking that word catering, which another word I hate, and making it sexy and making it fun and making it relevant. And he's really thought about how do you bring that restaurant experience into people's homes? So this is great. And there's lots of chefs up and down the country who have really done this in an amazing way. But Gary is, he's a bit of a hero. V is for Vega. Vega is, this is something we've been working on for a while, and it's pure escapism and adventure, which we all need now. And Vega is this great concept, a great sort of place to, social place to eat, drink, work, and go bowling. And it's on the top floor of the hotel in Glasgow, and it's very, it's very brash, it's very in your face. It's very fun, it's very exciting, it's very thrilling. You can't really see the menu here, but I'm going to send out this document to you so you can see it. It's going to be very, very different. And, I love Yotel as a brand, but, this is something I think is going to be very exciting. Who puts a bowling alley on top of a roof and a bar and a restaurant? And, it's dynamic. It's going to be, the menu is so much fun, and it's pure, it's like a theme park, but it's very relevant, and it's very Glasgow. And I this is going to be very, we need to look forward to places where we can go and be social again. And concepts like this are very exciting. W is for the W in Osaka, which has just opened recently. And I love this. I mean, I've watched W over the years, and I'm a big fan of, what Barry Sternlicht created right at the very beginning. And I've seen it go through some massive evolution. But you should look at this. It's a great design. It's a great aesthetic. It's a great product. The whole emotional connection, again, emotion per square foot, massively. But what I like about it, it's been designed by Concrete, is this real new sort of new interpretation of Japanese culture. And they've taken something like, the origami, for example, or cherry blossom, and they've given it a real modernist, sort of real contemporary, appreciation. And this is a great example of how you take something very traditional and make it very authentic and give it a great story. And everywhere you sit in this property, whether you're in a room or the lobby, I mean, look at the bar, and you will get a truly highly emotional experience per square foot, and that's really, really powerful. And we can't forget, just because we've all been in lockdown, that there's great design happening, and we've got great projects like this. And this, if you go onto Design or Cool Hunter, you'll see these great projects. But be inspired, get out there, look what's online. And then I think this is probably the most exciting, thrilling resort on the planet today. Now, it's a big thing. I went here, the year before last, just to see how they were doing, and they opened up a little space. But Rischio is a beautiful resort in an old, 11th century castle. and it is just magical. It's in Umbria, and they've created this incredible modern contemporary experience around, you know, bathhouse, you know, horse riding, the outdoors, restaurants, you know, cooking, palm court. You know, they've really taken what you would expect to find in a luxury property, and they've made it very relevant to that location, and you know, and also in that incredible setting in the Umbrian hills, which is just magical. I think this is going to be the most sought after resort to go to in the next, you know, in the foreseeable future. I think it's magical. I think it's beautiful, and it's just great to see that it's just coming. You know, it's just completed, and I, you know, if you get a chance to go there, or just go online and just look at what they're doing, because it's absolutely incredible. Why is for YouTube. This is going to go on YouTube. I mean, literally from sourdough tips, cooking classes, demos, cocktail making, virtual tours of museums. You know, this is genius. I love when the Connaught Bar won Best Bar in the world, how, you know, Richard Vines from Bloomberg did a whole, you know, video, and he went to meet the guys at the Connaught Bar, and they made him a martini, and it went on YouTube. YouTube is just great. You know, we have to think about, you know, who's going to be coming to our properties in the next 5 or 10 years. And this audience love YouTube. So let's not forget how important it is as a platform. But there's so much amazing inspiration out there when it comes to design, drinks, food, you know, hotels. It's magical, it's amazing, it's a whole world. So please have a look, have a delve, and then think about what you can do in your properties and what you can do which is relevant and fun for YouTube. And then we've got this really important slide, which is, you know, how we appeal to this next generation, this Generation Z. You know, in our industry, we have to think about changing this narrative. You know, I'm getting a bit sort of worried, the fact that we don't see enough gender and ethnic diversity in our industry. And when it comes to hotel managers and general managers and leaders in food and drink, we really need to push the envelope. We need to change the narrative. We need to open up. We need to go to schools, and we need to think, you know, talk about hospitality and talk about how amazing it is, how exciting and thrilling, and how it can change your life, and how you can meet the most amazing people in your jobs. So I do think we need to find a way of inspiring and engaging, because sometimes we can come across as a very sort of old school, fuddy-duddy, catering colleges, and we need to move beyond that. We need to really push the envelope and change the narrative and get out there and start, you know, bringing in people from all sorts of backgrounds and diversity, ethnic diversity into our industry. It's really important, and we need to see that sort of change happening. And that's pretty much my deck. So, you know, pretty much, I mean, I could have gone on about design and experience and products, but I really wanted to talk about some great examples of things, and not forget that this is all about emotion per square foot. And I think that's incredibly important. So let's forget about we're in the F&B business and outlets. How do we create those emotional experiences per square foot that people talk about it, they become loyal, they become social currency, and it makes people think about those memories they've created in those wonderful spaces. Anyway, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Wow. What can I say to that? Now breathe, Robbie, breathe. Maybe have some water.
I'm good.
I can see a few questions already. One question is, where did you buy that shirt from? No, I'm joking. Sorry. So we have got a number of questions. So Robbie, amazing as ever. I mean,
I do prefer a live audience, though, to be honest with you. Give me a stage and I'll be on it, or give me a platform, I'll be on it. Give me a mic, I'll be there. But, you know. Yeah,
I mean, we're all changing and evolving to this current situation. We're doing our best. And I mean, that journey was inspiring and amazing and really, really good. So thank you again. Now let's have a few questions. I don't know if you can see the questions as well, but I have got some here. I think you've already answered this, but what do you imagine will be the main change to hospitality and how we operate after lockdown? That's from Scott.
I think, you know, creating memorable experiences is going to be much more important. And people will want to come together, and they will have, I was in this bakery doing a tasting in Hackney on Wednesday, and people were coming in. It was a bit like that scene in Love Actually, when you're coming through arrivals and everyone smiles. I've never, people were coming into the bakery and they were picking up their cakes and they were elated. And I found myself, I was sat there doing a tasting, but I was also at where the door was. And as people were coming in, and they were saying, asking for their cakes, and I was saying, oh, it's over there. And I was engaging, and I thought, and they were happy to have a conversation. They were so happy because we were having these amazing cake. I think this whole social connection, about human connection, is going to be really, really important. So we're going to have to create spaces which enable that to happen in a very sort of fluid way. And we've got to be very, very agile, and we've got to be very flexible about our spaces. We can't just say that room has to do one thing. We've got to think about that room and think about the guests using that room, and think about how do they feel when they use that room, in what way. So that hybrid connection is really, really important. So we've got to think about that in a much bigger way. And for that to happen, we've got to make sure our teams are really, engaged in that as well. And we've got to retrain and rebrief, and they've got to understand as well, and this is going to be really hard for them, that they're not just doing what they were doing last year. They have to become, it's a lot bigger, and it's a lot more tactile, and it's a lot more emotional. So I think that's going to be a huge change for us.
Excellent. Another question from Oliver. How similar is the current rise in non-alcoholic drinks trend to the temperance movement of the early 1900s?
Gosh, I don't know. I have no idea. I just know that, I had a great, if anyone follows me on Instagram, I had this fantastic non-alcoholic canned beer last night, IPA, which was great. And I love the label, the branding, the messaging, the tone of voice. I just think for someone like myself who loves going out and eating and drinking, the fact that I have a non-alcoholic drink, I still want an experience. And I think, unlike the temperance movement, where you were just given a Shirley Temple or something, now there's a lot more emphasis in storytelling and experience giving when it comes to drinks. And I think that's really powerful. And if that's non-alcoholic or low alcoholic, it's still, people will want to have a big experience. They still will want to talk about it. They still want to take pictures about it. They will want to talk to their friends. So I think that we will need to just put a lot of attention into a low alcoholic and non-alcoholic program, especially in hotels, because they always forget about it. And one word I hate is the word mocktail. It's just like obscene. It's just like, forget about it. It's just like an afterthought. We really think about the experience around non-alcoholic, and there is room there. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I had, we've been testing out some low alcoholic drinks. So like shandies are coming back in.
Yeah.
So we were trying some shandies, which were unbelievable, really, really fascinating, brilliant. Another question from Anonymous. Which restaurants have you booked when you first visit?
Oh God, I've booked one which has just opened near me in Kent next weekend, which is owned by the guys who've got the Fordwich Arms, which is a gastropub they've just taken over. I booked that twice in one weekend. I booked a great Italian restaurant called Bocca di Lupo. I booked a great vermouth restaurant in King's Cross called Vermoutheria. And I booked a couple of places in Manchester. I'm going to see, they've got this incredible outdoor eating and drinking experience called Freight Island. I'm going to be going there. So I've got a few places booked, and I booked, I'm going to be coming to the Wigmore, definitely, and seeing some of my friends in the hotel business in the West End. I can't wait to come out in London and go out. I was in London yesterday and the day before, going around, and it was nice seeing people looking at their terraces, looking at their gardens, and there's lots of paint jobs happening in their restaurants. So I will be eating out lunch and dinner for the next month, 2 months at least, which I can't wait to do. I'm so excited. I'm really bored about cooking anything at home or finishing off a menu box. I've had menu boxes coming out of my bottom. I tell you, it's not stopped. But what is amazing is I love gardens and outdoors, but put me in a restaurant, put me in a bar. I miss going to hotels. I miss the buzz of becoming whoever you want to become and walking into a lobby. How exciting, and the adrenaline. And this is why this emotion per square foot is so important, because we've got to think beyond food, beyond drink. It's a much bigger production. And I think we've got, some of the parts need to be greater than the individual elements. And that's why this is really, really important. So I will be, any restaurant or any bar I can walk into, I will be doing so.
Excellent. I love buffets. Will we be able to enjoy them in the future? Wow.
Oh God. I was talking about a project this morning to a client, and and this whole world of creating spaces where you can go and help yourself and be convivial. I hate buffets anyway, but I think there will be spaces where you can go and experience and see great decadent presentations. And I think there will always be room for that. So I don't think we've seen the death of buffets at all. I just think they will be a little bit different.
Okay. From Ben, what are the trends that aren't are prevalent now, but you think rephrase, sorry. What trends aren't prevalent now, but you think will become in the future?
I think we'll be designing hotels in a very different way. We'll be designing around the emotional needs of guests and local residents and people who live in the area a lot more. And we'll be thinking about how we blend experiences, into spaces. I think that's going to be massively important. And I know for myself, when I'm looking at design, I'm also looking at, from concept point of view, really carefully of where things come from and carbon footprints and, how can we help do our bit for the environment. And I think that's going to be really, really important. And also how we really focus our attention on looking after our teams, because that's going to be so critical in doing this.
Perfect. Could you share with us your top 10 food trends from a profit perspective?
Oh God, this is who did that come from?
Good luck with that one.
That was I can't. Albeit I will. I'm working on a concept at the moment, which is a hybrid between a ethnic food and a sourdough pizza base, which is quite interesting. And from a profitability point of view, digging into that, I think there will always be great pizza restaurants, but I think that the need to go beyond that and create experiences around hybrid spaces, hybrid concepts, almost fusion concepts, which are casual dining, and they also do takeaway and click and collect and delivery, is going to be really important. I will not be working on any casual dining concept today without thinking about delivery and takeaway and click and collect, for sure.
I suppose I have got a question. So obviously with the social distancing restrictions still on, how do you manage that sort of, to get that buzz and feel of like a brasserie and that sort of thing with these restrictions still happening? What's your advice to people who've got a brasserie, who feel, the tables need to be close together, there needs to be that buzz and energy, but yet we've got the social distancing, so we can't really do that?
Do you know, I think it's all those things. It goes back to that emotion per square foot thing. I was in Cologne in between lockdowns last year. I had to go to a meeting in Cologne. And I was in this very lovely town just outside Cologne, and they had this great food market. And what they actually did, and these great restaurants in this market square, and they took all the restaurants in the market square and they basically flipped them so they were all outdoor alfresco spaces in the market square. And I think what we'll just do is look at spaces and look at the better use of spaces, and we will then think about how can we create exciting emotional connections with guests when they're sitting down, and that arrival, what they see, what they touch, what they smell, what they hear. All that is going to be hugely important, especially when we're having to work within these restrictions. So you can't just have this room. I always think about those Italian fine dining restaurants where there's the few sort of ghost chairs and this huge room with 6 tables in it. You can't do that. We have to think about how a guest will feel and what they will walk away. They've got to be comfortable. So, it could be foliage, it could be greenery, it could be lighting, it could be, we've just got to create these spaces. It's almost, I know when we first opened the very first Hakkasan, how you create smaller spaces within a bigger space. We've got to be smart, that's all. And also that designers really need to think about the emotional needs, about how a guest should feel when they're in those spaces, not necessarily think about what that space looks like only. That's really critical.
Perfect. I've got another question. Oh, you're going to love this one.
Oh,
Emotion per square foot. How can a venue measure this or gauge success?
great. Loyalty, repeat business, talkability, social media, all those things. You know, one brand I think does this really, really well is Pret a Manger. You know, they really connect with their audience, and you know, they are so engaging. And you know, I think they've gone through this massive change, you know, turmoil as well. And I think a brand like that can manage to connect with you in a transaction of buying a cup of coffee and creating a, you know, an experience which it's fun, it's interesting. The branding, the lighting, the music, all these things come together, and they do create an emotional experience for you. But I think you can only measure it by repeat business, loyalty, how much they come, you know, they talk about you. Those are the great ways. And those brands which have loyalty, amazing loyalty, people will go back. Those are the ones who are delivering on emotion per square foot. Really is important. Because also, I remember when I first, you know, started working in this industry, you know, today's soda is tomorrow's steak. If you deliver an amazing experience and you're just having a soda or a coffee, they will come back and have a great steak with you one day. So it's about thinking about that.
Perfect. Okay. And one more question. Let's see. Robbie, do you produce an annual 100 places to eat and drink in the world? If not, why not?
I should do. I don't, but I do have. It is one of the questions I get asked every single week in normal times. Where is the best place to eat and drink? And it always changes. You know, I tasted 50 dishes on Tuesday, Wednesday this week in London, and my favorite dish I had was an incredible sausage roll, and it was just magical. And so I like different things from different places, and if it makes me feel good, it feels very special, it definitely ticks a box for me. But I could definitely give you my favorite places in capitals like Istanbul and Paris and New York and Austin or whatever. But when it comes to places like, you know, the best places to go in Sheffield or, you know, Leeds, I will struggle. But I've got a good, and I connect. I make sure I'm online constantly, looking and reading what people talk about. And when you read reviews in our newspapers, you know, what's always interesting is reading the notes and the comments about those reviews online, rather than just reading the reviews. I think that's really important.
Perfect. Good. I think I'm just checking the time. We have now hit our hour allocation, so I think we should be wrapping up this and just saying thank you very much to Robbie for, as ever, inspirational talk and you know, whistle stop of everything that's going on in the world. And just to say, you know, thank you to everyone on this call. We have got a few dates which will be popping up now, which will be just explaining what's happening next. So there's the Hoteliers Battered Not Beaten Again, which is a fantastic webinar coming up. The Midas, a couple of classes there. And then as the SJS, we're looking at getting another date for May coming up, which will be from a key speaker from Cranfield. So this would be a great thing to do. So without further ado, just to say thank you very much, Robbie. And look forward.
If anyone's got any questions, everyone's got my email address, whatever, or my social media. Just drop me a line. I'm happy to answer when I can. And yeah, we will be showing this on YouTube in the very near future. So thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Bye bye.